Peace that surpasses all understanding. Driving to work. You guys want to go for a drive along the Maine, New Hampshire seacoast? uh, I was considering another question. I remember when I was a kid, and I remember when I was a kid, and where I developed my sense of enjoying flowers and gardening. And initially, that's a no-brainer. That came from my grandmother, and she was always out in the yard, and it was a time for her and I to just have fun in the yard and plant flowers. She had a Victorian cottage, a three-story Victorian cottage, and she had a trellis going up obviously from ground level all the way up to the attic, and it had long stem roses on it. And I remember it was cool because in order for her to prune and trim, she would use a step ladder, but on the second floor there was a window in a bedroom where she would lean out the bedroom window to prune her roses. And then there was another one, like a vent kind of thing in the attic, and she would go. I'm serious. The rose trellis went all the way up to the attic. It was stunning. I mean, she had other things. She had a gray barber and a cherry tree, Bing cherry tree. Flowers, you name it. She was never happier than being out in the yard. And my step grandfather, the only grandfather I ever knew, my biological grandfather died well before I was ever born. But so she'd be gardening and he'd be splitting wood. He was a tough bastard. He was like, I mean, I was a kid, so I don't know. They were, and they were, 50s, 60s, and I ended up living with them. But I even now to this day, it is a very rare occasion that you see an elderly man who's like totally like buff. That's all he did. Like that was his spare time. That's what he did to stay active. He split wood. He used a maul, and that's it, man. That was his fun time. That was his workout. That was his exercise. And they used to walk a lot too. But I remember like he was a retired constable, retired cop, a beat cop, and but boy was he in good shape. And but where am I going with this? What's the question, right? Inspiration for the things that we find passion with. For me, it's gardening. I enjoy gardening. I enjoy the ocean. This doesn't really fall into that, but the ocean as far as that goes. But what am I passionate about? I enjoy gardening. And I remember when I was a little kid, this is prior to moving in with my grandparents. I ended up living with them. Prior to moving in with my grandparents, I was living at home with my mother. My father had passed away, and it was in my best interest to spend as much time not at home. And there was a florist, flower shop, and a small greenhouse not far from my home, not far from where I lived. And small florist, flower shop, and greenhouse. And I used to walk past there frequently, and they would always have like the most beautiful flowers in the windows. And, it always, every time I walked by, it caught my eye. And I'm a little kid, and I remember one time I walked in there just to see, if the window is that beautiful, what's inside, it caught my attention. And behind the counter there was robust figured, elderly Slavic woman, and I can't remember her name, but it was like Helga or Olga or I lived in a yeah, I'm Polish, French, and Native American, and I lived in a predominantly Polish neighborhood, Polish and French. So she was Slavic of, whatever, but Olga or Helga or something like that. And I remember walking in, and she looked at me kind of funny. I remember this vividly. Like, what's a little kid doing in a flower shop, you know? And and when I walked in, she was in the midst of putting together a flower arrangement. And I was like, wow, flowers, they're pretty, whatever a little kid can come up with to say. I don't remember, but just finding beauty in the flowers and what she was doing. And she didn't speak very good English, and I am hearing impaired, so our communication was sketchy at best, verbal communication. And she, would you like to watch me, do a flower arrangement? Whatever, I'm in no rush to go home, so entertain me. But she was like so nice about it, like very welcoming and accommodating, and you could tell she was somebody's grandmother. You know what I mean? Oh God. But and after that experience, I would go back, not all the time, but maybe once a week, and stop in. Would you like to try? And it progressed, and I remember her offering, and that was like the very first job I ever had, because they had a small greenhouse off to the side where they grew plant, whatever, a small greenhouse. She taught me how to transplant and weed, etc. And she used to pay me whatever, who cares? But she used to give me a little bit of money or something like that, and an hour or two after school kind of thing. And here I am, I'm a grown man, and where did I develop? What was the inspiration? What was the inspiration for my passion for flowers and gardening? And no doubt, again, it goes back to my grandmother, but this particular woman, Olga, Helga, whoever she was, always like impeccably dressed. She would always wear a blouse. She had a cameo necklace. Her hair was always perfectly done. Perfect. She had bifocals, and like her skirt was pleated. It was a pleated skirt with a blouse. And again, a very robust figured woman, but it fit her perfect. Beautiful. And but the question is like, do you guys? I know. Some of my friends have a passion for art. Some enjoy reading, for music, etc. On and on. And I'm kind of curious, what like, if you look back over the course of your life, is there an aha moment where you suddenly realized, like, that's where that came from in me? As an adult, that's where that passion was nurtured by someone. Somebody stepped in, or somebody paid you attention and guided you or inspired you. And I'm thinking there's it's not so much of a poem, but it's called Reason, Season, or Lifetime. People come into our lives for a reason, for a season, or a lifetime. And in these types of people, there are different kinds of relationships, and some of those relationships are for no other reason than to tap us on the shoulder, and let us know, help us figure out who we are. You know, she didn't, the woman Olga in the flower shop, she didn't spark my interest in flowers. I already had an interest in flowers before I ever walked in the shop. That's what caught my attention. She just nurtured that for me and brought that out in me, and it was an amazing exchange. I'm in the early years of primary school, whatever age that is, and back in the day when it was still, I was still walking to and from school. We weren't getting rides or being bused to school. Just an amazing experience. And I'm curious what your experiences have been that have prompted or guided or inspired you to your talent today, or to your passion today. It doesn't necessarily have to be a talent, but something that you're truly passionate about. Very curious about that. Very curious. I did go out in the garden this morning, and we have had just unseasonable torrential storms, man, like torrential rain. And I walked outside this morning once the sun was up just enough where I could see what was going on in the garden. And some of the stuff got hammered pretty hard last night. There was thunder, there was lightning. And I'm going to have to check that stuff out when I get home from work tonight. But some of the stuff got hit pretty hard. There's not, again, what can I do about, the torrential downpours? But it just unseasonably rainy and stormy, like big storms, like the kind of storms where the lightning strikes and the thunder booms, and the lightning is lighting up the entire sky. It's almost like daylight. And when the thunder hits, it's shaking, like you can actually feel the thunder in your chest, and you're in your house and you feel, you can feel the thunder, So I'm hoping, it's supposed to be a very nice day today. Hopefully the stuff that seemed to have gotten beaten down, hopefully by the end of the day, a nice kind of balmy day. It's only supposed to be 75 degrees today, but very bright and sunny. Hopefully everybody will be standing back up when I get home from work. But I was very, I was like, oh crap, man, look at, wow, everything just got hammered. But anyway, I'm gonna smoke a cigarette. I'm parked right across the street from work. Drink my coffee and offer you guys a piece that surpasses your own understanding. Interesting things going on in my daily life.